Welcome to Bravo Happy Hour. I'm your host, Donnell, and today's episode is blessed with the presence of Jared Milian. He's a performer, makeup artist from New Jersey, and a certified Bravoholic. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm such a huge fan of yours and the podcast.
That's amazing. It's so weird if anyone says they're a fan of me. I'm like,
You have a good voice. You have a really good voice. I'll give you that. Very soothing.
Thank you. As a minute ago, I was like, I'm sitting here in my underwear in my apartment, sweating my balls off, but we've got to do the Lord's work. And we're really lucky because we were supposed to record the past 2 days, but we didn't get scheduling, whatever. And so this show is a day late, but we are
not a dollar short. Not a dollar short. A day late, but the opposite of a dollar short. We struck gold with this delay.
Ding dong, the witches of WeHo are dead. So if you guys are not on the internet or like have done anything in the past 24 hours, you would know that Stassi Schroeder and Kristen Doute from the Real Housewives. Oh my God, I just gave them a Real Housewives title. Wow.
Oh, I mean, maybe you're speaking that into existence because that's their dreams come true. That would be their absolute dreams come true. But they don't have enough money to be Real Housewives of anything.
Especially because now they're both unemployed. Anyways. So, Stassi Schroeder and Kristen Doute from Vanderpump Rules, and also Two Nobodies, Max and Brett, were fired from Bravo today, Tuesday, June 9th, because
V-Day.
The V-Day. So the four of them all got fired due to racially insensitive comments that they've been making for years. And I mean, frankly, they should have just been fired for like being themselves. Like even if they didn't say racist things, I feel like everybody on Vanderpump Rules is the definition of failing upwards. Like,
I dropped my phone. I literally was so flabbergasted by that my phone threw itself onto the floor. That's what happened.
So there's just a lot to unpack. So we'll start with Kristen and Stassi, who I know I'm like,
yeah, it's a lot. It's definitely a lot because honestly, so here's my thing. I have wanted Kristen off of Vanderpump Rules since episode 1 of Vanderpump Rules. So my thing with all of it is like, for those two, it's a long time coming, but really like the craziness of it to me, and it almost ties in Brett and whatever that other guy's name, Max or whoever, like it almost ties them in because it's like when they made those comments, I'm like, they're getting fired. Like I was like, there's no way they're gonna keep them on the show. There's no way that's gonna go forward. But when this shit all blew up with Faith, I was like, what are they gonna do? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So just backtracking. So Stassi and Kristen both went on a podcast back in 2018, the Bitch Bible podcast, and I remember where I was when I heard that.
The Bitch Bible, where we all were.
So they went on this podcast, and Stassi first went on and was talking with Jackie about Faith, who had been on a few seasons of Vanderpump Rules, just kind of as a friend of, and then was the infamous catalyst to break up Jax and Brittany, the whole cheating, Jax fucked Faith, Faith. So they went on this show and began alleging that Faith stole Jax's car, was breaking into people's homes, stealing credit cards, drugging men at clubs, and taking all of their money. I'm like, where are you two getting this?
And it's also like, not to cut you off, but the truth about Faith, like what we already know about Faith is that she fucked Jax in front of a elderly woman that she was caring for. And I'm like, isn't that enough? Instead of making up all these allegations about, you know what I mean? Like, we don't have to get into this weird, like, creating stories about Faith that don't exist. The proof that Faith has admitted to is enough for you to just be like, okay, maybe I'm not going to be friends with Faith. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, if you were going to go after Faith, go after the fact that she would do that on the job. not
100%.
things that she
100%.
do. So they're sitting up on this podcast. Stassi is saying her and Kristen were like drinking spicy margs at some place in Los Angeles, and I guess they saw a Daily Mail article that featured a African American woman, and Kristen immediately says, "That's Faith." And then the two of them go down a rabbit hole, contacting the LAPD, contacting the military police because Faith was an active military person. I don't know, like what, or even more.
Yeah.
But they went completely above and beyond to accuse her of these crimes that she clearly didn't do. And
Like
so,
one unequivocally, there's no argument. Faith is not like breaking into people's homes and stealing Jax Taylor's car. Was it that little wagon he was riding though? When he was riding through WeHo on that, like the back of the cooler, I'm like, if it was that, I almost wish that were true. But it's like Faith, like y'all haven't done enough to Faith that we now have to like create this like narrative. Like Faith hasn't been through enough with the Vanderpump Rules people that like you're going to 100% racially profile her by reading. And it's like, what, Kristen? Is Faith the only black person you know that you're like, oh,
yes.
this article is Faith? You're out of your mind. Sorry.
No, you're completely right. So that was one of the things. So they said, oh, they had the same weave. They had the same weave. And so then you hear Jackie, you hear Stassi, you hear Kristen snickering about this woman's hair, which if you've seen one episode of The Real Housewives of Atlanta as a dumb white person, i.e. myself, you'd probably understand that speaking about an African American woman's hair is like a sensitive subject and also like a specifically racially targeted comment.
Yeah, it's not your place. It's not you don't have any space in that moment. Like there's really first of all, like I have like feelings about white people in general using the word weave because I feel like it's always used in a derogatory way. Like it's like, oh my weave or this is my weave. And it's like you don't get to take that away from black people. Like that's something that that's a word that they use, that's something that they use to describe their hair. And it's like for you to then use it in like a derogatory sense, or even just to speak to, oh, it's my weave. Like a lot of white girls do that with like extensions. They're like, oh, this is my weave. And it's like, you never would have called it a weave ever in your life. Those are hair extensions. And you've now created a situation where you're taking like colloquialisms or other things used by black people and trying to claim them as your own, which is, surprise, the definition of cultural appropriation. Like, I don't know what to tell you. So, congrats.
I feel like we should send that like little soundbite to Lala Ken directly and be like, "Hey, girl, if you ever need to know on how to speak to people or speak about yourself, Mrs. Tupac reincarnated." But that
did you see the picture with the red and like I'm not LA or I may not be from I was like, is she out of her mind right now? That's what we're gonna do.
Wait, that was a recent picture?
I don't know if it was recent or it was definitely recently drudged up. I stopped following Lala because I literally can't stomach the term "give them Lala." Like it makes me want to choke myself in front of it makes me want to literally don't use that, but it makes me literally want to. It literally makes me want to just like I don't know what it makes me want to run away. It makes me want to move somewhere where there's no TV. I hate it so. Give them Lala. I'm like, what is that? Like, is
that a disease, an infectious disorder? Give them
or like a drink? Like, is it a drink at the bar? Like, give them Lala. Yeah, I'm like, no, I'll have a tequila ginger with like a splash of grenadine. I don't want the Lala. I'm like, so, but yeah, she's definitely, I'm surprised. I guess like they need something to go by, like to really fire somebody for that, because really, like, you could, I mean, Stassi and Kristen don't stand a chance, but if they were to just fire Lala and base it off of appropriation, she 100% could come at them with a defamation suit. So it's like, it's definitely, I think, one of those things where like they have to like tread the waters lightly. But this shit with like them calling her out on that podcast, like, not only is it like, really, really like textbook bullying, it's racist. Like, it's just racist. It would be racist today and 6 months ago and 10 years ago and whenever they did it. It's racist to racially profile a black woman and decide that this is the black woman, that the one that you apparently know, the only black woman, you're going to say, oh, it's definitely Faith. Like, are you, first of all, Faith is on a reality show. Don't you think that the LA Times is going to be able to find her if she's this like masked burgle? Like, they're not like, it's a new, like, they can find her. Like, they'll know it's Faith. They're not going to like put out a call for a girl that's on reality TV.
Also, if it's on the Daily Mail, all of the people looking at the article, just like Kristen, would have said, that's Faith. Kristen is the only one who was making this genius discovery. And then they were like priding themselves on being Crime Stoppers and really like going about it beyond. And they were like, it was so weird. The LAPD didn't do anything. It's like, well, yeah, two drunk girls sitting in a bar saying, we like know a black girl and now she's a thief. Like,
and it's also like, what do you think they thought when they answered that phone call? When they're like, hi, we saw the article, we know that it's Faith. Daily Mail was probably like, is this Kristen Doute? Like, is this, like, they're like, are we being pranked? Like,
yeah.
it's so insane that it's like, there's no other outcome but losing your jobs. Like, I don't.
Yeah. So that was the beginning. This all kind of blew up in the last few days. And this is obviously not the first time. Stassi has been pretty atrocious in so many different ways. A couple years ago, she did the whole Oscars So White freak out where she basically said, I don't understand why, like, black people just, like, are begging to be seen in the Oscars, like, maybe their movies weren't good. And mind you, Oscars So White started because the cast of Selma, a movie about Martin Luther King getting voting rights for people in the United States, or African American people in the United States, the cast and Ava DuVernay, who directed it, wore shirts that say "I can't breathe" because of what Eric Gardner had to happen. What happened to Eric Gardner a couple of years ago, where he was a similar situation to George Floyd, is like asphyxiated with a cop's knee.
He was choked.
Yeah,
Eric was choked. He was like in a chokehold. It was horrific. It's horrific.
So they were all wearing the shirts, and then the Oscars decided that they were going to blackball the 12 Years a Slave cast, and I'm sorry, not 12 Years a Slave.
Selma, yeah.
And that's where Oscars So White started, because they were like, how ridiculous. We're literally protesting police brutality. Why are we now
being penalized for it?
Being penalized for it. So Stassi, at that point, made all these comments. Well, I don't understand. Asian people aren't complaining. I don't even understand. Why do they always have to pull out the black card? Why do they always have to do that? And it's like, Stassi, because...
Well, you know nothing. Like, you're a person that, like, you absolutely know nothing about anything, and it's very clear that this platform that you've been given from, like, the amazing fucking race has, like, brought you to this, like, level of literally privilege where you think that that's an appropriate thing to say. And this is when celebrities, Bravo celebrities, say things like this is why I'm like, they need to be taken to task for what they say, because at the end of the day, like, you don't know who's listening to you, Stassi. Like, you don't know who's reading those tweets, and thinking, like, maybe anybody that has a platform, anybody on Facebook, no matter who they are, like, I was taken to task a few months ago for something I said about Joe Biden, where a friend called me and was like, when you say stuff like that, at the end of the day, they're like, you don't know who's reading it. So you're a brave person, or you're a loud person, or you're outspoken. And if somebody hears that, they may not be as brave or louder than outspoken and take that as like a go-to of, okay, so it's okay to feel the way that I do. And it's like, Stassi, you don't know who heard you say Oscar's So White. And it's also like, are you so stupid that you didn't pay attention to what was happening with Ava DuVernay and the rest of the cast of Selma, and you didn't realize how moronic it was for you to try to turn that hashtag on its head? You're an actual moron, and I'm surprised it's taken anyone this long to figure out that you are inherently racist.
Yeah, and it keeps happening, and the weird thing with Stassi is that she's still a golden child. A couple episodes ago, we were talking about how Sheena gets a bad edit, yet Stassi and Bo get a great edit. And the producers who are producing Vanderpump Rules, they're listening and watching and consuming all the same content that we are. They know when she's talking about being Nazi chic. They were around when she did the Me Too comments. They were around when this was happening. All of these things have been in the cultural zeitgeist, and they're consistently giving her platforms, giving her a Siri, a virtual whatever shitty.
Yeah.
They're constantly giving her opportunities above and beyond anybody else on the network, in addition to anybody else on her cast. And so it's even their problem, because it's like, you guys are enabling this because you're not holding her to task. And I remember a couple months ago, she tweeted, oh my god, I woke up from a bad dream that I just got canceled. Well, bitch, your dreams are coming true. Because
surprise! You're not waking up from this one. Because really, exactly like you're saying, it's what's frustrating, and this is why I think Bravo, and I'm glad that you guys have all started like those different things where you're signing those petitions to get them to really, you know, be more inclusive. Because if you look at Bravo as a whole, it's like they, you can look at all of the Housewife franchises as people, and you can say, okay, you literally have your token black girl with Atlanta, and then it's like then Potomac, and they market those shows differently. They market Potomac and Atlanta as these like catty fighting
Mm-hmm.
dramatic shows where it's like, but you know what? Like, you're doing a Real Housewives of New York, and you've never had a black woman. Like, if anyone has ever stepped into the state of New York, you know that that is not a realistic depiction of affluent people in New York. There are plenty of, I can think of 10 off the top of my head right now of black women that could easily join that cast and could easily succeed. So it's like when you think of something like Stassi and how she's continuously given a platform, I think what's frustrating to me about it is the ignorance of the network to be like, oh, well, we're watching what's on the show. And it's like, I mean, if you really think about it, it's kind of like, I would bet you all the money in my bank account that like you guys were probably around when she was tweeting this shit. You filmed them all the time because
Yeah.
like, so you're gonna say that you're turning a blind eye, and I think like to go back to what you just said is like that really broke my heart when I read that shit about Sheena because I think that like Sheena, as annoying as she can be, and as like brain dead as she sometimes is, like I think Sheena makes great reality TV, and I think that Sheena is like great for TV because I think she just knows what she's doing. But it's like to find out behind the scenes that this poor girl has been eating shit for 7 seasons to make this happen. It's like but then Stassi gets to like trademark the word basic as if like just viewing her and watching her behave, we weren't already like, you're basic. We get it. Like we totally get it.
I mean, I can't even imagine what Ariana and Sheena and
Oh.
even Katie. I wonder if Katie is like, how did I get not?
Yeah.
How am
I
I?
think
People were canceling her
as
just because of her personality, not because of any racial.
yeah, because she sucks.
She sucks. But even this past season, like the whole prank that Lala and Randall did on Jack, I mean, not and Jax did on Tom Sandoval with the cops arresting her. Katie was incredibly upset and was like, "Do you not know what's going on in the world? A fake arrest is like kind of serious and can get really ugly really fast in Los Angeles." Uh,
Literally.
riots,
Like, are you on?
being
It's just
riot.
and it's also like I think like what I will give Katie is I sometimes pick Katie to be like from watching Katie really progress. I sometimes like watching Katie on the show. I think that like she just is at a place now where I'm like, what more is she going to be able to give us? And I firmly believe that Bravo sees Tom Schwartz as a gold mine. So I think they know that like they can't get rid of
Yeah.
Katie because it would be kind of awkward for Tom to do the show. But like Ariana is my favorite cast member on that whole show because I just think that she's the most like reflective of people that work in restaurants, essentially that like are aware of what's going on and like are here on Earth with the rest of us. Whereas somebody like Stassi, like I said, like you can just dig into Stassi's history and she's had an unbelievably privileged life, unbelievably privileged. She's never really had to like from all accounts, never really had to like work that hard for anything. You know what I mean? And honestly, like the show did really okay without her for the season that she wasn't on.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not really sure why it took this long to get her back off because it kind of felt like she never really even grew out of that friend of the cast role since she came back.
Yeah, especially in the last few years, it's like she's like gotten older and started dating Bo, and their relationship is somewhat stable, so we don't get to see like
Yeah.
crazy Stassi, which is like what we love to see. So like on the surface, you see growth, and you're like, oh wow, you're not drunkenly smacking your friends in the face and doing all these things. So it's like, oh yeah, like she is growing in a way. But then you look and it's like, no, consistent behavior, but just like microaggressions consistently, like micro issues. So like the viewer with like not really a keen eye, like isn't really picking up on it, and I don't pick up on it all the time. Even a couple weeks ago, she was tweeting during the quarantine, what I would do to put on my SIR dress and go wait tables. Bitch, the waitresses at SIR don't have a job. They don't get furloughed. They get fired. They don't have money. They don't have insurance. You're sitting up here in your big, beautiful house with your husband, doing your thing. Once was a cast member. Once had a successful podcast, which is no longer on iTunes anymore. Like crazy.
Ripped from the airways. Like literally, Apple was like, "I want her gone. Take her. Everything she's had. Tell her the horse she rode in on. Everything she came." And I agree that it's like, as someone who was personally laid off in this during because of COVID, every time I hear someone that's like, "Oh, what I wouldn't give to like do nothing all day," I'm like, do you understand like how difficult it is to wake up? And luckily I have saving, but it's like how difficult it is to wake up every day and be like, what do I do now? Because like I've looked for jobs before, but like never in a pandemic. And it's like
28 million people are looking for jobs too.
exactly, and it's like honestly, Stassi, like yeah, what you wouldn't give to put like your surgery back on for what? For fun? Because at the end of the day, it's like, what are you making? Like 55 to 65 an episode. So it's like you're making a shit ton of money. You don't need to work at SIR. And it's like, so for you to even say that, it's like, what about like, so have you been to SIR? Because I've been to SIR.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, and I'm like, of course you have. But like I like being there, you're like, oh, this is a restaurant. You're not like on TV. You know what I mean? So it's like all of these girls that are working there are now like, they're like, fuck Vanderpump Rules. Like that's like 8 bitches that work here. They're like, we all have fucking jobs. Like we're the ones that are like passing out pickles and like picking up straws when these bitches are over here like working. So it's like, it's just so insensitive, and it's like, for me, like it should come at no shock to her that like, especially now in the wake of really the whole world kind of getting behind Black Lives Matter, whereas before it was like, I mean, I've been involved like since the jump, and I'm sure like you have, and a lot of people that like are like care about humanity have been involved from the beginning. But other people, I feel like what's given it so much traction recently is like there's a lot of non-people of color that are like, fuck this, like no, like we're not going to do this. And it's like, you had to know, like all of them have to be scouring their tweets at this point and looking through everything they've ever done. When her publicist dropped her, I was like, this is bad for you, this is really bad.
I mean, when your publicist knows that this is only going to get worse and they jump ship before they can even. Actually, no, they probably helped write her phony apology, let's be real. But when
she did not. But like, speaking of the apology, she didn't apologize to Faith.
No.
She publicly apologized.
Well, that's another thing. Okay, so we'll go through the apologies. So both Stassi and Kristen were silent for about 3 days when all this was happening. Yesterday, the two of them, at the exact same time, black background, white font, very Black Lives Matter.
I cannot.
Wrote their crock of shit apologies. I'm going to read Stassi's first.
I'm very ready. I'm just plugging my phone in, but I was born ready for this performance. I've never been more ready for something ever in my life.
By the way, you guys, I didn't have a statement necklace, so I'm wearing a statement earring. So watch it on YouTube if you want to see these.
Oh, it's such a statement too. I'm into it. Like, watch on YouTube after this part where I'm like doing like an earthquake with my phone trying to get it. I'm like, all right, go.
Okay, so
this is like my literal makeup case holding this phone up, but whatever. I was like, I would literally sooner not, like, I would sooner be anywhere but not on this podcast with you. I've been trying to talk to you for what, like 8 months at this point?
I know, this has been a long time coming, and I mean, I think we're both really lucky that we get this one.
And you're my favorite. Not to keep gushing over you, but you're my favorite Bravo podcast. You're the realest, the smartest, the most relatable, the funnest. You're always like interacting with people. I'm obsessed. But keep going. I'm ready.
Oh. You hear that, Stassi? Bad credits? Shut up. I wrote that in my notes as I was just like typing notes the other day, and then I was like looking at it just now, and I was like, did I really write Stassi bad credit Schroeder? I'm like, well, Stassi takes no credit for anything she's ever said.
So it works. No credit, bad credit, all the credit. Let's go for this apology. I'm so ready.
The apology starts with racially insensitive comments from my past resurface. It is important that I continue to take accountability for what I have said and done while pushing myself to do better. I have grown significantly from the person I was then. April 2018, by the way. Trust me, girl. Like, I've had like shirts longer than that. Like
the shirt I'm wearing.
Yeah, like forever. I literally got this shirt when I was studying abroad about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyways, I am grateful for the people in my life that continue to check me and push me to evolve into a more educated person. I also want to address my former castmate, Faith Stowers. My emotions over something that happened between our friends outweighed my logic, and there's no excuse for that. I did not recognize that the serious ramifications that could have transpired because of my actions. What I did to Faith was wrong. I apologize and do not expect forgiveness. I am also sorry to anyone that feels disappointed in me. I'm going to continue to look closer at myself and my actions, to take this time to listen, to learn, and to take accountability. Which, like, by the way, just have to say, like, everybody's, like, public statements recently being like, this week, I wasn't on Instagram because all I want to do is listen and learn. Well, baby, bitch, you should have been listening and learning for your whole goddamn fucking life.
Literally. And it's like when people are like, oh, like, can you just, like, be nice? I just stopped being racist yesterday. So, like, if you could just give me a few days, like, I have to work out the fact that, like, I have treated Black people unfairly for the entirety of my life, and I just got caught now, so just give me the space I need. It's like, fuck your space. Like, call fucking Faith, you dumb bitch. Like, what about Faith? Like,
So, no acknowledging of Faith, which is absolutely ridiculous, and also my emotions over something. My emotions over something that involved my friends outweighed my logic, meaning like the Jax and Brittany thing made her go and say these things. Bitch, Jax cheated on you too. Jax has done nothing good for any person in his life. Literally, Tom Sandoval said he's the worst person he's ever met in his entire life. He's like 37.
And like, let's focus on this really quick. So earlier I said, like, when Faith, like, when all that shit went down with Faith.
Two of us are getting so close to the camera. I love it.
I know, I'm obsessed. I can do this every day. So Faith, like, when all that shit went down with Faith, I want to be really, really, really clear that the only thing I think that Faith did wrong was to have sex while she was working, watching that woman. That's the only thing I think did wrong. Jax Taylor is a human piece of actual garbage, and he does not know how to treat, let alone women, but human beings. So the fact that Faith took any heat for that, like, if I was in the editing room at Bravo, I'm like, you're gonna make Faith look like fucking Mother Teresa because she's done nothing wrong. In fact, she's the one that's telling Brittany and everyone else what this piece of shit is doing. So it's like, really, like, so what you're saying, Stassi, is the fact that my friends treated Faith unfairly when this man who did the same shit to me for 4 years did it to his other girl that's trying to be the star of the show. When all of this happened, I was so blinded by that bullshit that I thought it was okay to racially profile her and accuse her of a crime she didn't commit, knowing, even in 2018 of April, that calling the police on a Black person could very easily end in that person being murdered. But you're okay. Thank you for it was heartfelt. And then, okay, live, laugh, love, Stassi, we got it.
Exactly. She's gonna take accountability for her own privilege.
Take accountability for your fucking stupid mouth. Take accountability for the fact that you're inherently racist. How about say that? I would stand in front of it and be like, I was not raised with the skills or the intelligence to understand not only the way that I treat people of color, but the way that I was raised to believe it acceptable to treat people of color. I accept any consequences that come from my actions because this is wrong. I would have quit the show. I would have been like, I don't deserve this platform anymore. Like, because you're never going to recover from that regardless. But it's like, you're a fucking asshole. Like, an actual asshole.
And her matching asshole best friend, Kristen Doute, wrote her apology, which was even worse, oddly enough. Oh my god, I love. Okay, you guys, she's been feeling and learning this week too. You guys.
Give her a moment. Give her her space.
All these white people are so, like, it's just such a crock of shit. I've been learning all week, and then they're like, I'm so exhausted.
I'm so overwhelmed with, like, knowledge that was readily available to me for the last 500 years. But, here I am, just living in my apartment with my 4 t-shirts that I have left because I can't sell them, and these 50 bottles of wine that are now, like, creating a house for my cat because I can't sell them. So it's like, here I am, like, listening and learning. And it's like, honestly, Kristen, like, you're, like, 40 years old. And I'm not one to, like, age shame, but, like, you're not young enough to be stupidly racist. It doesn't, but let's hear this apology. I'm sorry. I'm surprised she can even read, quite frankly, but I'm ready to hear the
I'm
apology.
surprised she can read. No, I mean, let's not get crazy. She's gonna read or write any of this. The publicist, literally the last thing on her invoice was like, apology.
They're like, and it's like a 1099 too.
Yeah.
It's like a 10, like it's like she's not even half of that fucking money is gonna go to her taxes because like, and honestly, she's probably like, I'm gonna do this pro bono because this asshole, I need her just out of the way. Is it the same publicist? Do you know that? Is it the
I
same?
mean, I don't have it for sure, but I'm assuming they probably have similar teams because they all work together and just
Yeah, and it's like, how many publicists in LA are really like, let's get those VPR girls, like, let's do it, let's work for them. It's probably one woman, like, fresh out of college. She like just started it, and then she's like, I stepped in actual shit. Like, are there any other girls that work there? Preferably not morons that I'll gladly like. I'll take Laura Lee back at this point.
I
Like,
would rather Laura Lee, be the star of Vanderpump Rules again, which honestly could get equally as dark. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's a racial thing, but I feel like I don't need a wellness check on Laura Lee. Like,
no, yeah, I'm good. I'm just gonna assume she's doing okay with whatever that movie she was in. Like,
or the Miller checks still coming in.
yes, yeah. I'm hoping you get residuals from whatever that is, and I hope like you're living your life not thinking about Jax Taylor, and I hope you've moved on. But I don't want to know. I agree. I don't need to check in. I don't need to. Okay, Kristen's apology.
I know, it's really hard. This episode is going to be 6.5 hours. I've been taking time to really process what I've been seeing, feeling, and learning. And I need to address something specifically that happened a few years ago with my former castmate, Faith Sellers. Although my actions were not racially driven, I am now completely aware of how my privilege blinded me from the reality of law enforcement's treatment to the Black community, and how dangerous my actions could have been to her. It was never my intention to add the injustice and imbalance. I'm ashamed, embarrassed, and incredibly sorry. I will do better. I have to do better. This is like when your 7th grade teacher is like, Kristen, come to the class. I read Stassi's paper 2 hours ago, and it looked frighteningly similar to yours. Did you two write your paper together? Like, I felt like I was in 7th grade, again, being yelled at.
Me too. They definitely put it through that hypothetical plagiarism website that all teachers pretended to have access to when we were growing up. They're like, we will put it into a website. We will know if it was plagiarized.
If this is like MLA cited, whatever that means, we will find out, and we will get used to it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, for me, I'm like, I didn't, like, you have to write the paper for them to accuse you of plagiarizing it. I'm like, I was ready for Bravo 11 years ago, so I'm like, really okay. Sorry, my phone? This is so annoying. All right, got it. Is that it? That's the end of it?
So that's the end of it, yeah. No, again, no directly reaching out to Faith and saying anything directly speaking to her. And Faith has also confirmed via Instagram that neither of them have reached out to her directly because they are cowards.
And they lost their jobs. They don't care at this point. They don't care. They lost their jobs. The whole world found out that they were fired. You and a million other people in America are now unemployed. And at the end of the day, it's like, myself included. And it's like, at the end of the day, it's kind of like, you don't give a shit about Faith. And honestly, both of your apologies said that, because like I said earlier, I would have just hit the nail on the head and been like, I saw her. I do not have the racial intelligence to know that I'm making a complete generalization. And they said Black girl, and I said Faith. Point blank, period. There's nothing more to it. You didn't learn shit. You're not sitting here like with like an almanac, like going through like different possible like word that you could use. It's like she's got every single like every Black history book is like surrounded. I'm surprised the picture didn't accompany both of them, where they weren't both like with like their fists up in the air or something super fucking problematic.
Kneeling, like,
that would be literally like kneeling with their hands up, like literally like Black Lives Matter. It's like, no. Honestly, apologize to Faith and deactivate your fucking account. Point blank. Period. Like, don't come back. We're good. Kristen, I told you, like, Kristen from the beginning, I was like, I had an old boss who was obsessed with Vanderpump Rules, so we would talk about it, like, all the time. And she loved Kristen. And I'm like, why? And she's like, you know, like, I just love the craziness. And I'm like, So that's, like, how I would describe genuinely, like, that's how I would describe, like, James Kennedy. I'm like, the craziness of James Kennedy, I'm like, he's just crazy. You know what I mean? He's, like, crazy for TV, whatever,
Like,
like, let
harmless
him.
crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
in a way.
Kristen, I'm like, stop. No one's gonna intervene. Like, it's like this is like Mama June level. Like, you're you're going into like a black hole. Like, Kristen's had moments on the show where I'm like, this is insane. Like on the reunion when like she was completely like, yeah, I fucked that guy, and yeah, he was dating my friend. Like, it's none of your business. And it's like, no, it's my business. Like, you fucked the guy that I was. Like, do you not see how that's like an issue?
Also,
And it's like, and then like you're gonna bring up her fucking Jax, like, while she was dating Stassi. I'm like, while he was dating Stassi, because like that's another thing where I'm like, that's unforgivable to me. Like, I would never associate with you ever again. Like, if one of my friends fucked my boyfriend right now, I would invite them over, also smack them in the face, and then never speak to them again. Like, I don't know why there was a continuation of a friendship beyond that. You're not a good person, and Bravo was like, write the check. Write the check. Let's like give it to her. And I'm like, yeah, it's insane because like VPR is like the little engine that could. Because like when that show first came out, I was like, do I like need like to know about this? And then like 3 episodes in, I was like, oh, I need to know about all of it, and I'm never going to turn it off ever. But it's one of those things where like a lot of other spinoffs have been kind of one and done. You know what I mean? Like every time a housewife gets married, we have like a 11 episode like we're gonna watch you get married, or like every time like something like every time Candy like takes a shit, we're like watching an entire like season arc of what Candy's doing. So it's like I just thought it was gonna be one and done, and I love it. But honestly, like when they announced like they were casting new people, it wasn't even just because of that, like just because of like my distaste for Kristen. It was more that I was like, these people have like gotten too used to this money and too used to this privilege, and they have no concept of really what reality is. Like, I don't mind watching Dana in a comedy club because I'm like, okay, that's kind of like probably what she's actually fucking doing. You know what I mean? Whereas like you have somebody. Continue. Sorry, I'll never stop.
No, oh my god, are you kidding? Literally why I have a podcast. But no, exactly. You actually see a realness that we were kind of seeing in the beginning seasons where Kristen was trying to be an actress, and like that one scene where she was like writing her resume, which was really funny. You know, like so they all kind of had their goals, but like at a certain point they gave up on them, and Stassi has had like 10 different fake goals, whether it was
wasn't she like an event planner?
yeah, the event planner, and then the podcasting thing stuck, and so then they kept giving her scenes where she was like doing her podcast with Jax again, like making light of like all of the bad shit he's done consistently,
Like
and like
emotionally and mentally abusing her for like, and it's like that's the thing is it's like you have to take Bravo to task at a certain point where you have to be like, you guys like are easily one of the number one networks that people watch when it comes to reality TV. Like no one's watching E for anything but the Kardashians. Like no one's watching like MTV for like anything but I don't know, Teen Mom 11. Like no one's watching like, you know what I mean? My boyfriend's like kind of obsessed with like 90 Day Fiance and stuff like that. But like, it's like I'm like I don't have time. Like I have like 11 Bravo shows that I have to watch, and like I have like 3 a night. So like I don't really have time for that. I wish I did. You know, I'm like, sorry, my reality docket is filled, but it's also like you have to be like, like they'll fucking kick a housewife out for way less than that, way less than that. You know what I mean? So it's like honestly, like I have to be truthful. Like I'm happy that they're gone because I think that at this point maybe the show can like move forward, and I think that it shouldn't take a movement for us to realize that like these kinds of things are problematic, i.e. Jax outing Ariana 4 times like on TV, where I'm like, so he should be next because like it's obviously of a different breed of problematic, but it's also problematic where it's like you guys can't just say whatever the fuck you want. Like just because you're actual real people, we all know that like a lot of this stuff is like directed and contrived and like controlled. So it's like you need to direct, contrive, and control your speech. If you want to be racist, I don't support it. I'm still going to think you're trash. Go be racist in the privacy of other racists. Don't be like blatantly racist. Like that makes me think you have no racist friends, which is even more pathetic that you're like announcing your racism. And honestly, I hope that Katie pulls a full fucking Shannon Bedore and is Mariah Carey. Like I don't know them anymore. Like they're not on the show, so I never saw them.
I mean, I kind of think at this point, like, if the show does move forward, it's going to be really different. We're still going to have the Toms, and I think that's going to be kind of like the shining light. I think it'll really just focus on people at the restaurant again, because even Stassi hasn't been working at Sir for years. Kristen hasn't been working at Sir for years, and that is the point. And that's why Tom Sandoval is still on the show, because he started Tom Tom. That's why Schwartzy's still on the show. And Jax is still picking up shifts, even though like he doesn't know how to make a pumptini, and he's been working there for 37 years.
And also, like, apparently has was going to be some magical, like, sportscaster in, like, the middle of fucking, like, Merritt Island, Florida, or wherever he was going to go. And it's just, like, shit like that is, like, like, honestly, like, I feel like he's the most problematic on the show, and I think that, like, that it's, like, I think in order for the show to move forward, like, do I think they could have done a little bit better with casting some of the new people? Absolutely. I think some of them were boring. Like, I would be on there, Megan, fucking screaming in everyone's face for no reason. I'm like, I have to be on TV.
You're gay, so you can't be on Vanderpump Rules, even though it's all about
That
LGBT.
yes.
It's probably
Well, no.
Lisa Vanderpump is very silent now, but it's no.
I'm also let's be clear, Casper. I am out and gay. That's why I can't be on Vanderpump Rules. You can be gay on Vanderpump Rules. You just can't. People can't know. Like, people can't know about
They can shame you about it though. They can
and
shame
call
you
you out.
maybe
Yeah.
being gay, or maybe being bi, or maybe. It's so pathetic.
Well, that was like, because that even calls to task like another one of those moments with Billy Lee with that season where, like, I didn't necessarily agree with all of Billy's methods, and I thought that, like, sometimes she was, like, impassioned about the wrong issues, but, like, that whole thing with, like, the girls' night, I was like, you guys don't realize how you're excluding this trans woman who works at this restaurant. You have every other girl that's on the TV show is on this flyer. And now you're going to exclude her, and you're like, I mean, she just wants to be friends with you. And it's like, no, she doesn't want to be friends with you. She just doesn't want to be, like, treated in a way that's transphobic. And guess what? Just like when a black person tells you you're being racist, when a trans person tells you that you're being transphobic, you don't get to be like, actually, I'm not being transphobic. So that's, like, how you feel. That's not how I feel. And it's like, okay. It's like they're all fucking problematic. Like Lisa Vanderpump herself, like, they all are exactly like you said. It's like Vanderpump is super, super silent, but I guarantee you, the second the LA Pride Parade like comes back, she'll be like on the front of it in like a rainbow like chiffon t-shirt with like a tulle skirt and like 11 dogs, and her husband just like behind her, like, what have I done to myself?
Why did I sign up for this? But I think one really poignant thing I saw online was Candace from the Real Housewives of Potomac wrote a comment on Bravo making like a very bold statement saying like, we are terminating Stassi, Kristen, Max, and Brett because of racial whatever on Vanderpump Rules. And she said this is a great step as well, but I think it would be helpful to accompany these terminations with a thorough explanation as to why they were let go, given the fact that their racial indiscretions took place months ago, and in some cases years ago, and they were allowed to keep their jobs. Having an honest conversation about why Bravo is choosing to associate with people who display implicit and explicit racial biases need to be a part of the conversation if pop culture leaders, parentheses like my network, are going to help heal the wounds of racism in this country. And I agree, like, unless Bravo can say
100%.
the things that are getting them fired, then other people on the network are going to feel like they could say those things, or other people in the world will not understand why they're being condemned. And so many people in like Stassi's Facebook group right now are being like, I don't get it. When did Vanderpump? I literally think I saw a comment saying like, when did Vanderpump Rules start caring about black people? And it's like, well, they haven't. Right. It never has, and it doesn't.
Yeah, and we're just trying to say that that's wrong.
Yeah,
we're trying to say that that's wrong because it's like, honestly, like, I love Candace, and I love Potomac.
I mean, no, she's wild on her own.
Yeah, she's got her own shit, but she's not fucking racist. And at the end of the day, it's like, I kind of agree with her where it's like, I agree they should be fired, but I do think that they should be like, I think it's important to call out the fact that these are long-term things, because I think what it looks like is Bravo is very much kind of like, well, we got caught, so now we have to like let them go. And it's like, no, what they should say is, just like I've said 3 times already on this podcast, that we have realized that we have allowed racism to go on for the sake of a TV show. And at the end of the day, like, you don't want to show filled with white people. We should perhaps be more sensitive to the fact that, like, we're in LA. LA is one of my favorite cities in the entire world. It is so beautiful. Like, it's so much fun to be in. Like, but I promise you, there are a lot of black people there. Like, it is not like you're not like in the middle of a place where people are like, "What are black people?" It's like it's almost when watching yeah, it's almost like when watching Vanderpump Rules. You're like, what did they like? Are they off today? Like, I don't like, where is everyone? I don't like. And I want to say that when my brother, like me, my boyfriend, my brother, and all of our friends went last year for Gay Pride, ironically enough. And when we were there, of course, we went to all the spots, and except for Villa Blanca because it's not on TV, so like I don't have time.
No,
But like, where is it? Don't even know where it is. But so I went there, and we went to all the other ones, and like I want to say that my server at Sir was a woman of color, if I'm not 100% mistaken. I'm pretty positive she was, and like even in an atmosphere like that, like I said, you're at a restaurant and it's beautiful, smaller than I thought it was going to be, but it's beautiful. And I'm thinking to myself while I'm there, like even then, where you're like, where are all these girls? Why are they not? And honestly, like I'm having this realization as I'm saying it to you, they probably just have the good sense to not be on a fucking reality show. They're like, no, thank you. I absolutely not doing it.
And they probably also have like behind the scenes insights of these idiots. And I can imagine there's so much gossip going on with Vanderpump Rules cast amongst the people of the restaurants because they kind of see like behind the scenes what's going on. They see what's happening when they're filming and when they're not filming, and just kind of like chatter between Tom or Max or whomever. Like, this is a random side note. Are Max and Brett fired from the restaurants or just the show?
That's a good question because Vanderpump on the fucking reunion was like, this is another mind-blowingly problematic thing when she's like, I have spoken with them and I understand that they're not racist. And then Brett is like, oh, but I'm Spanish. So I grew up saying these things. It was Brett. Yeah, Brett. Yeah, Brett. Brett was like, I'm Spanish. I grew up saying these things. And it's like, you are never allowed to say the N-word. Under any circumstances is the N-word allowed to come out of your mouth. You should not be working at a restaurant where you're serving all walks of people. You're a racist. I'm not saying you can't be cured of the disease that is racism. I'm not a doctor. I will be a coroner of racism, and you are dead to me at this time. So, like, you know, because it's like I don't have anything more. You know, I grew up. My parents are my mother works for Rutgers, the state in New Jersey, and my dad is a therapist. And my brother and I are both gay men. We're incredibly accepted by our family. Like we grew up like in a beautiful multicultural like area. We have a lot of different friends from all different walks of life, but we've never once used that as an excuse to be ignorant or as an excuse to be racist because all I've ever thought to myself is like, am I checking myself enough? Like, you know what I mean? Am I saying the right things? Am I doing the right things? You know, like I had a dream like last night about something bad that happened to me years ago, and then this morning I woke up and when I was on my run, I was like feeling poetic, and I put on my Facebook, I was like, you are not defined by what has happened to you. And I immediately took it down. Not a famous person at all, just a gay boy from New Jersey. And I immediately took it down because I was like, what if like someone thinks I'm talking about the movement and I'm saying like you're not defined by what has happened to you, so like move forward. I was like, I'm taking that down because at the end of the day, like I would lose sleep at night. You know what I mean? I've gone to protests. I've been like out here like in these streets, like screaming at people. I've been fighting. It's just like in my web of understanding, all the people that I'm around are like minded. So it's like I'm not fighting really with racists anymore because I'm like, I'm deleting you, you're not in my life. Which makes me think that like I'm sure the Vanderpump Rules group chat, because you know there's a Vanderpump Rules group chat. And I'm sure the Vanderpump Rules group chat is going back and forth of like, I can't believe this happened. And then like just at the bottom it's like Ariana Madix has left the chat. She's like, I'm not gonna be involved in any of this because you're fucking racist. And you know what? If you're racist and you are continuously racist publicly, you should lose your job. Whether you work at the Port Authority or you're on Vanderpump Rules, racism should not be tolerated in the workplace. When it is tolerated, it's immediately sending a message to other people that it's okay to be, to other non-people of color, that it's okay to be racist, and it's sending a message to people of color that if someone treats you like in a disparaging way or like unequally because of your skin color, you're not going to get any traction complaining about it because this girl is over here racially profiling you from a newspaper and no one said anything about it. Like, it's June of 2020. This happened April of 2018. We may not have all known about it, or we may not have seen it, whatever. We did because this is our bloodstream. Yeah, what else are we doing? But we did, but it's like, imagine how Faith felt in 2018, hearing like feeling that way and like having like, and I mean, she spoke about it, but it's still like, before she spoke about it, like imagine what you're putting somebody else through.
Well, I don't even think they can even get to that point. I feel like once they did the podcast, it was like out and out of their lives. And both Jackie and Kristen and Stassi especially, like they pride themselves on being unapologetically unedited. And I want to say that's your fucking problem because I edit 2 shows a week for myself, and I have said fucked up things about whatever in this world. And I listen back and I say, oh my god, like take that out, do better. But like that's called like being a professional. And when you put something out and thousands of people are listening, like I have a micro little show. I can't even imagine seeing what Stassi's numbers are. I can imagine seeing what Jackie's numbers are. And to be saying those things and to be so proud that you don't edit yourself shows such a lack of fucking just self-awareness to think like, oh, everything you say is going to be perfect. And I get it, like I have found myself editing myself more in certain situations, and then people have said, oh, Megan, you're turning soft. And I said, well, at a certain point, my own fucking integrity is more important than making listeners laugh or feel like I'm saying something fucking crazy just because it'll.
You're trashing someone. Yeah.
Trashing someone. And like, a couple weeks ago, I told my friend this the other day, like, I randomly went on a, like, 13, no, maybe not 13, I'm probably like a 3-minute rant about Lala. And like, it had nothing to do with the topic we were talking about. Like, I don't even know, we probably were talking about rules, but I listened back and I was like, this is so upsetting. Like, what is going on in me? Like, what is my problem with her that I feel like I need to say those things and I need to take her down to such a level of like me being truly disgusting? And I took it out and kept it pushing. And now I think about it, and I at least can proudly say, like, oh, like, yeah, no, my show's highly produced because it needs to be. If thousands of people
and you reckon
my voice,
and
you have to be a little bit cognizant of what you're putting out there. You can't be a dumb fuck all the time because it's easy. It's stupid.
And it's also like, I had a conversation like this with my sister-in-law the other day where we were talking about somebody that we both know, and this person's excuse is always like, well, I have no filter. And I'm like, so there's 2 things I always say to that. The first thing is like, that's totally fine. That is not how adults in society behave. So at the end of the day, you can be proud of having no filter. Believe me, I was like that from like ages 14 to 19. And then someone punched me in the fucking face. Like, and someone punched me in the face. Or you can't have a mouth like mine and not get punched in the face. But it's also like, eventually, and that leads me to my second point, which is like, number 1, that's not how adults behave. Number 2, that's cool. Eventually, you're going to come up against someone who feels the same way as you. And it's like, freedom of speech is not freedom of consequence. They're 2 completely different things. So, like, if you want to say whatever you want, you have that right to say whatever you want. That doesn't mean, like, A, worst case scenario, someone can't beat the fucking shit out of you for it. Or B, maybe a little bit better than getting your ass kicked, is you're going to lose your fucking job. And I think it's important that, like, you do edit your podcast because you know what? Like, this isn't a live show. This is a taped show. And at the end of the day, it's like, you have a voice and you have a great following, I think, but it's like, I think your following is only going to continue to grow because you care so much about your audience and because you connect with your audience and you're not out here, like, for lack of a better term, masturbating just to be like, to sit here and just like listen to yourself speak. You have millions of followers, Stassi, Kristen. Collectively, millions of people are listening to you. Young girls, older women, black people, white people, gay people. You have to take them all into consideration when you speak. And if you don't want to, Ramona, this is not the job for you. This is not the gig for you. Like, I will always circle back to that, like, when they did that, like, massive Bravo thing, BravoCon, and they brought Ramona up to, like, feud with every single housewife from every single franchise. And
she is with every single person.
Yeah. Well, Dolores, who is, like, lives 40 minutes away, yeah, was, like, they were getting into that argument, and, like, all I remember so clearly is Dolores being like, this is the business you're in. Like, you have to treat people with a certain level of respect. Like, you don't get to say, I don't want to take pictures with people. This is like something where, like, I will always pride good reality TV stars on, where I'm like, you're like, a lot of drag race, like RuPaul's drag race stars are very, very good with being communicative with their fans and like, and meeting those people there, because it's like, you have nothing without that. You're not an actress, Stassi. You're not like, you're an actual nobody that's lucky enough to have this platform. Watch a fucking Housewife franchise, find one of the OGs, see what they're doing, that they've been kept on the show for as long as they have. Maybe not Ramona, but like find somebody else. And, you know, like somebody like Bethany. Look at somebody like Bethany, and although she's no longer on the show, you're going to say, you know what? Look at this person who has taken their platform and doing something good for it, apologizing for the things they say, going back on the things that they've done. You know what I mean? Like, I think that, like, they're not sorry that they said it. They're sorry that someone caught them. They're sorry that it's being pulled up. And I guarantee you, I know enough privileged white girls that that's the focus in their group chat right now, is that, why are we talking about something I said 2 years ago? And it's like, Stassi, we have a laundry list of things that you've said. This is just the first time someone's actually given a fuck enough to say, you know what? The door is closed and you are no longer permitted to like continue to speak this way. And honestly, like, in a rare turn of events, I'm happy that Bravo has given them the axe. But I do hope that I really do hope that they take that cue from Candace and they say, this is why it's happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because a lot of times it's like, even in these public statements, like, nobody is saying, like, they're saying Black Lives Matter. That's amazing, but no one's addressing, like, the mass incarceration, the police brutality, like, so many of the things that, like, the Black Lives Matter, you know,
encompasses, yeah.
Encompasses. And so when you're just saying these blanket statements, and then they're both doing, like, the black on their feed, which, oh my God, thank you so much, both of you, for posting a black square, because that changes everything. God, you're so woke. God.
The wokest. You're the wokest. You went and you took your phone and pressed it up against your hand, so you got a dark pic, and you just got enough that you cropped it and you put it on. And listen, I had the black square up too, until someone explained to me that, like, what the ramifications were of posting it, why it's not enough. You know what I mean? Because initially, like, obviously COVID is still a thing. We would be in person if it wasn't. And I think that, like, at the end of the day, like, I was worried about going to protests. I was worried. And, you know, my mom called me and she was like, we're going to go to this one. And I was like, all right, I guess if my Italian mom is okay with it, I'm going to go. But it's like, it's like I said the other day, like, on my Facebook, I was like, because I had a friend who was just like, the Facebook posts are not enough. If you want to, like, do this, you have to donate or you have to do this. And honestly, like, he's a good friend. I've known him for years, and I'm very proud of everything he's done in the movement, because he's not at all racist, but he's definitely one of those people that, like, I'm sure you've had those people in your life that you're like, oh, okay, wokeness, all right, look at you. And he's one of those people, and I'm proud of him. And I wasn't attacking him, but I just thought to myself, like, you know, what about people that, like, have, like, autoimmune issues or, like, other conditions? They can't go to a group of 250 people.
For someone who is a doctor and they can't expose that person. Like, just being on the streets, it's a privilege to be on the streets, to be physically
100%
on the streets. Even
that,
that,
like, or somebody that, like, has lost their job and doesn't have money to give $5 to a donation. It's like, you know what? I'm glad people are posting on all their social media. And that black square, to me, after having it up, I took it down. But after having it up, I was like, you know, like, for me, like, I think anybody that wants to do that and feels passionately, like, I think it's good. If the buck stops there, Stassi, Kristen, you're just not doing enough. Like, I know you have money. Like, I know both of you have money. Like, you live in fucking, like, California. Like,
big, nice new homes.
You have money. So it's like, at the end of the day, like, put your money where your mouth is. I will be, and I will fucking text you about this, I will be unbelievably proud of both of them if they make donations, even after they've been fired. I think that would be something that, like, It won't happen, but I think that would be something that would, like, because I would be like, okay, at least you're learning. You're taking some of that money that you might not ever see it. Because, like, let's be real. What are they gonna do? Like, what are either of them gonna do?
Maybe Stassi will get back into event planning.
Yeah, that worked out really well for her when she, like, did that La La event, like, just the blind leading the blind. I was like, oh, yeah, maybe she'll do that, or, like, maybe she'll go back to The Amazing Race, or maybe she will.
They can't even get jobs. And little do they know, like Faith said on this podcast that she went on, that she's been like unable to get jobs because of these articles that were written about her in the Daily Mail. And she said she's been in interviews for other reality shows or whatever interviews that she's interviewing for. And they've said, well, do you have a criminal record? We're going to look into this. Da, 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 da. Like, and you can't shake those types of rumors. If an employer sees that, they're just going to say, fuck it, it's too much work. It's too much work.
Especially on a TV show. Especially on a TV show, because it's like, everything comes out in the wash. Yeah. So it's like, if you're on a TV show and you have these, like, false accusations, like, she probably not even, this breaks my heart, because it's like, she's probably not even being given the platform to defend herself. They probably see this shit and they're like, nope, she's problematic. And then they watch that season, which, in hindsight, if you watch the way she's treated, it's horrific.
Even in that season, she said in this podcast, because the host asked her, why were you not on the season after all that stuff? And she said, because they made me sign an appearance release to go to to Sheena's birthday party where the whole entire thing happened. So regardless, whatever she said was okay to air because it was on the release. But Bravo told her they wouldn't give her a contract for the remainder of the season. So if she wanted to be on the show, she could sign releases. But her agent was like, you're not going to be on a show without a contract, without a paycheck. So they wouldn't even offer her money. So they were going to silence her instead. Fucking assholes. And it's a really interesting thing when you start hearing more of the background into it and what people knew and what people didn't know. But people didn't know. Like, I had a girl hit me up on Instagram yesterday, and she was like, at Bravo Happy Hour, at a bunch of other people, I cannot believe you are not doing anything. You need to do this. I said, bitch, I have been talking about this very thing probably 4 to 5 times, I would say, and that's like on the low ball end. Probably, 4 to 5 times since October 2018. So shut the fuck up if you think like this has been a hidden thing. And I was like, if you are so passionate about getting justice, you make the petition, and I'll sign it, bitch. But like, don't come at me saying you're entitled. And I've been calling Stassi an entitled fool since day one. And
because she smells like an entitled fool. She can't be on TV. That's what I'm saying. Where like with people like that, that's why like I bet Jax is next. I can't see how they wouldn't. I can't see how they wouldn't continue the show for 2 main reasons. Like, Lisa Vanderpump is in that kind of crown of Bravo where it's like Vanderpump, Bethany, Nene, Teresa, where they're like, they will always be
Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, exactly, if you will. And I think
I should make that into.
Yeah, you should do it.
I need a Photoshop person.
Yeah. Anybody that does Photoshop, please email Megan at Bravo Happy Hour and make a Mount Rushmore of Nene, Teresa, Lisa Vanderpump, and Bethany. But I think that so I feel like Vanderpump is going to do whatever they want. I mean, they're going to do whatever they need to keep Vanderpump. But I would not be surprised if, like you said, I think it'll start to become more of like a housewife show where like the Toms will be full time. I think Katie will be like a friend. I think that I think they're going to make it that nobody works there is on the show. So I think Ariana will still be pulling in like week shifts because I think Ariana is not problematic television. You know what I mean? I think that she's good to watch and she's cute and she's funny. But I'm also like, what they should not do this coming season of Vanderpump Rules is like put a ton of black people on it because at the end of the day, it will be so obvious that that's why they're doing it that I'm like, find genuine people that represent the community and put them on the show. Dana's cute. Do I care about her? I'm not sure. I don't really get that, you know what I mean? But like, I just think it's like, it's too much. It's like all like, it's too, like, we're in the middle of a pandemic, a recession, nobody has money, everybody's stressed out. I don't know if I want to watch rich people anymore in that capacity. I'd rather watch like unattainably rich, like Real Housewives. this kind of like you're a former server and now you have all this money and all this privilege and you're an asshole about it is no longer entertaining to me because you make me sick. So it's like that's like when that girl, what's her name? I'm so bad with remember her name. The new she had called Jackson a 50-year-old man
Oh,
on
Charlie.
yeah, which is my boyfriend's name. So that's really good that I can't remember it. But I thought that Charlie was so like she was like whatever, but I thought when she literally said to Jack, she was like, "You're a 50-year-old man. Why are you yelling at me?" I was like, "Why has no one else said that?"
I
That like,
got blocked by Jax a year and a half ago because I was like, why are you picking on Raquel? She is 21, a recent college graduate. Immediate block. Like, bro, do you even read the things that you're blocking? Maybe if you read the things that people were saying and actually made changes rather than just blocking, silencing, no longer in his life,